Welcome to another episode of Extreme Expat Stories of Thailand. Hello, mate. I hope you're sitting comfortably with a cold singa in hand, because this is one crackers of a story. I'm Derek, a Kiwi big-time lurker of your Extreme Expats of Thailand channel, writing to you from the other side of a wild adventure and a minor hospital stay. I've watched your vids over a few sticky nights. Thailand's humidity and politics of cramps, anyway. And thought, bugger it, I've got to tell John this one. So here it goes. Brace yourself for a bonkers tale of a farm boy from New Zealand, a spirited Isan girl, and a Thai roller coaster that ends in a bang rather than a guitar solo. Imagine this. I landed at Suvarnabhumi Airport in Bangkok with nothing but flip-flops, sunburn ambitions, and a pocket full of baht. Bangkok hit me like a never-ending oven. The air felt like a wet wool blanket, and the smell. Imagine sweaty lemongrass and petrol doing the conga in your nostrils. My grand plan was simple. Stuff myself with pad thai and pad see on every corner and see every temple in t-shirt and shorts. But reality had other jokes. After stumbling through immigration, I hopped into a tuk-tuk, shouted, "Sawadi Krab, Grand Palace," and ended up zigzagging through street markets as if I were in a floating cocktail party. The driver, a skinny bloke with a gold tooth and more energy than a Red Bull factory, kept turning around mid-traffic to ask where I was really from. "New Zealand," I'd shout over the roar of motorbikes. "Ah, sheep country," he'd laugh, nearly running into a street vendor selling grilled squid on sticks. By the time I realized I was lost in some back soy next to a shrine full of bright lights and monks, my brains had boiled to soup. The GPS on my phone had given up entirely, probably from heat stroke. I found myself standing in front of a 7-Eleven at 2 p.m., sweating like a pig in a bacon factory, trying to mime "Grand Palace" to a shop clerk who just kept offering me some mama noodles. I'll be honest, mate. Bangkok's chaos nearly gave me a brain meltdown bigger than any Kiwi bonfire or Guy Fawkes night. That first night in Khao San Road was like being dropped into a backpacker circus. My guest house room was smaller than a sheep pen back home, with a bed that creaked every time a motorbike passed outside, which was every 30 seconds. The shower was a bucket with a plastic cup, and the aircon sounded like a dying water buffalo. But the street food? Bloody hell. I must have eaten my weight in mango sticky rice, som tam salad that nearly blew my head off, and these little fish cake things that tasted like heaven wrapped in chili paste. I spent the whole evening stumbling between bars full of gap year Brits, aging sexpats, and digital nomads typing furiously on MacBooks while sipping Chang beer. Everyone had a story. "Oh mate, you haven't lived until you've been to full moon party," or "Wait till you try the massage in Pattaya," wink wink, nudge nudge. I just nodded along, feeling like the greenest tourist in the history of tourism. Anyway, on day 2, fate threw me a durian, or rather, I threw myself into a durian stand. There I was, nose deep in that spiky monstrosity, after someone convinced me it was like a custard apple. Mate, trust me, it is not. When destiny, dressed up as a Thai lady, plowed into me, everything went flying. Fruit, motorbikes, stray noodles all in slow-mo. My 2 brain cells processed, "Holy cow, I think she's knocked me down," and Who's this devilishly gorgeous woman who just hit me like a runaway truck? I literally tasted mango durian and loneliness all at once. The crash happened near Chatuchak Market. You know, that weekend bazaar that's bigger than Auckland city centre. She'd been carrying art supplies and a canvas, which explained why I suddenly had paint streaks across my I Love Bangkok t-shirt. Yes, I was that kind of tourist. Her motorbike had skidded on some spilled fish sauce, sending her sliding into my durian adventure like a scene from a Jackie Chan movie. When the dust settled, there stood Nook, pronounced knock, soaking wet and giggling into her phone's light. She was from the Isan region. That's the farmy northeast up near Laos. Tall, slim, with a mischievous grin that could melt a glacier and eyes as bright as temple lanterns. She told me through a smattering of English and many translate for me hand gestures that she was painting murals in the city. All I understood was that I had just been made an epic fool of myself and impressed a hardcore Thai adventurer chick. The market vendors were all laughing and pointing, shouting things in Thai that probably translated to stupid Farang strikes again. But Nook just helped me up, brushing durian pulp off my shorts, and started rapid-fire apologizing in 3 languages. Her English was better than she let on. I caught phrases like, "so sorry," and "my bike crazy today," mixed with Thai curse words that would have made a sailor blush. Instead of kicking my foreign butt, Nook invited me for a chang at a rooftop bar. I blinked like a bunny. Thai girls don't just invite random parangs for drinks. That's rarer than a pineapple in Auckland winter. She explained later that she'd been having the worst day. Her art exhibition had been cancelled. Her landlord was threatening eviction, and her ex-boyfriend had been texting her non-stop. "You look more sad than me," she said with a grin. "So we drink together." Anyway, she led me to Silom, and suddenly the night was filled with neon and Thai pop. The bar was on the 15th floor of some dodgy building, accessed by a lift that creaked like my guest house bed. But the view? Mate, Bangkok spread out below us like a circuit board made of gold and neon. We clinked tiny plastic beer mugs, and I stumbled through telling her I liked Thailand. She laughed, kissed me on the cheek, and said, "Lin Lin," for more beer. I was in heaven, man. We spent hours up there, her teaching me Thai phrases while I tried to explain what a Kiwi bird actually looked like. No, not the fruit, the bird. But why same name? I don't bloody know. She showed me photos on her phone. Paintings she'd done around Bangkok, her village up north, her massive extended family. Every photo had about 30 people in it, all grinning at the camera like they'd just won the lottery. By later that night, sometime after failed attempts at dancing, I swear I invited a new move called the slippery tofu. We were sneaking free 7-Eleven mango sticky rice cones behind a temple. The temple was Wat Po, and we'd somehow convinced the security guards that we were making merit by eating dessert at 3 a.m. It was about that time where I remember telling Nook, "Oi, this city's insane, right?" Expecting some deep first world answer. Instead, she just giggled and whispered something in Thai I didn't catch. I think it involved the words "Aroy mak" and a cheeky wink. We laughed and raced a tuk-tuk back to our guest house, armed with rice, whiskey, and the brightest smiles. The tuk-tuk driver was the same gold-toothed maniac from my first day, and he recognized me immediately. "Sheep man, you fine girlfriend," he shouted over the engine noise, giving us thumbs up while weaving through traffic that would have given my mom a heart attack. Nook was hanging onto my arm, her hair whipping in the wind, laughing like a kid on a roller coaster. Morning came cruel and hot. I staggered downstairs, hungover as an ape, to find Nook cheerfully munching tamarind candy on the steps. She looked fresh as a daisy, while I felt like I'd been hit by a songkran. She'd already been up for 2 hours, she said. Had done a morning jog around Lumpini Park. Bought breakfast from 3 different vendors and called her sister. "Thai people, no hangover," she announced proudly. "Only Falang gets sick from little bit chang." Unbelievably, she told me her family was having a wedding in her village in 2 days and insisted I come too. "Adventure," she said. "Full Songkran festival." I nearly choked on my coffee. Songkran, Thailand's biggest water fight / New Year, was about to sweep the whole country in 2 days, and she wanted a scruffy Kiwi to join her clan for it. I swear I tried to be the sensible foreigner and suggested maybe we go to Koh Samui instead. Paradise, less drowning. But Nook just grabbed my arm, eyes sparkling, and barked. "You mental? Only idiots skip their sister's wedding." She spent the next hour on the phone with various family members. Rapid-fire Thai conversations that sounded like machine gun fire. Every few minutes she'd turn to me and translate. "My mama asked if you eat spicy food. My papa want to know if you can drink whiskey. My grandma say Falang too skinny, she will fix." Each conversation ended with explosive laughter that I couldn't understand but somehow felt included in. So, braver than brainy, I nodded like the big muppet I am. We spent the afternoon shopping for proper clothes, meaning I had to buy a shirt with a collar and pants that weren't board shorts. Nook dragged me through MBK Center, like a woman on a mission, rejecting everything I picked up. "No, too tourist. No, wrong color for wedding. No, you look like German backpacker in this one." Finally, she found me a nice blue shirt and black pants that made me look almost respectable. We hopped on overnight bus to Khon Kaen, about a 9-hour trip through endless rice fields lit by floating fireflies and a sky full of stars. The bus was ancient, probably older than me, with seats designed for people half my height. Nook had packed enough snacks for a small army. Dried squid, coconut cookies, more tamarind candy, and a thermos of coffee that could wake the dead. By morning I was basically a zombie on wheels, and Nook was dozing in the seat next to me with a grin like she'd already won the lottery. Locals on the bus kept nudging at each other, amazed at the Falang who had a thumping headache but still waved at every temple along the route. The countryside was absolutely mental. Rice paddies stretching to the horizon, water buffalo that looked like they'd stepped out of a postcard, and villages that seemed untouched by time. Every few kilometers we'd stop to pick up more passengers. Farmers heading to market, monks in bright orange robes, families with more luggage than seemed physically possible. The bus driver played Thai country music at volumes that would have violated noise ordinances back home, but everyone just sang along. In Khon Kaen, her family greeted us like heroes returning from war. Thai grandmas are legendary for pinching cheeks and shoving food. Nook's grandma scolded me with a grin, asking if I had a lot of meat on my bones. Meaning I was fat, of course. These girls don't mince words. The whole extended family had turned up. Aunties, uncles, cousins, neighbors who weren't technically family but might as well have been. Everyone wanted to touch my arm hair, practice their English, and take selfies. One of her uncles asked if we had dogs in New Zealand. I said yes, 2, but all they cared about was New Zealand. Sheep? Sheep? Very humpy, they asked, giggling. In my confusion, I said yes, and also sheep, and they roared, laughing. I tried thanking them in my best Khop Khun Kap robot voice, but they thought it was adorable. Nook's little nephew, maybe 6 years old, kept following me around, making sheep noises and pretending to eat grass. The family compound was like something from a movie. Traditional wooden houses on stilts, chickens wandering around freely, and a vegetable garden that could have fed half of Auckland. Nook's mom immediately put me to work helping prepare for the wedding feast. My job was mainly to sit still and look foreign while the women did the real cooking. But they kept giving me things to taste and washing my face when the chili hit. Finally, they pulled us into the back of a red Songkran, a motorbike truck, full of sprayers and squirt guns. Yes, Songkran is intense in the villages. By 10 a.m., we were fighting every auntie, kid, and monk on the street with water, and Nook had turned into a silent sniper with a water balloon tucked in her sarong. The whole village had basically declared war on each other, but the friendliest war in history. I got absolutely destroyed by a gang of teenagers with super soakers who'd been lying in ambush behind a temple. Then a motorbike taxi driver. He did a wheelie and sprayed me. But Nook just laughed and whispered, "Never make the tuk-tuk dad angry." The driver turned out to be her cousin's husband, and he kept circling back to soak me again every time I started to dry off. Right, lesson learned. The wedding ceremony itself was beautiful chaos. The bride looked like a princess in traditional Thai dress, and the groom couldn't stop grinning. I understood maybe 10% of what was happening, but Nook kept whispering translations. Now they tie hands together with sacred thread. Now monk blessing for many children. Now you supposed to bow to the spirits. I did my best not to embarrass myself for international relations. That night at Nook's family home was like a warm bath of Thai hospitality. We ate grilled chicken, gai yang, and sticky rice by the Mekong River, and she taught me to eat with my hands like a local. The chicken was incredible, charcoal grilled with herbs I couldn't name, served with a sauce that was sweet, sour, and spicy all at once. I still spilled rice all over the floor, but Nook just giggled and patted my shoulder, calling me Kun Derek, with the tone of someone who is already in trouble. Her grandfather, a tiny man who must have been 90 if he was a day, kept challenging me to drinking contests with Lao Khao, white whiskey that could strip paint. "Farang can drink?" he'd ask with a grin that showed 3 remaining teeth. Each shot felt like swallowing fire, but refusing would have been insulting. Nook finally saved me by claiming I was allergic to too much fun. After dinner, under a roof of stars, bigger and brighter than anything you see in Auckland, we ended up nearly kissing. And let me tell you, dancing between water fights all day makes you kind of close. The family had set up a sound system in the yard, playing a mix of Thai pop and traditional Isan music. Nook taught me some basic dance moves, which mainly involved me trying not to step on her feet while she spun around like a graceful tornado. But much respect to Thai ways. It was more innocent, just her hand in mine, while fireflies did their thing around us like nature's own disco ball. The next day, rather than heading home, we were bitten by the adventure bug. Nook insisted on taking me to Phu Kradueng, a famous mountain plateau in Isan known for waterfalls and jungle views. You see real Thailand now, she announced over breakfast, which was leftover wedding cake and some tom salad at 6 a.m. These people don't mess around with meal timing. So off we went on rented motorbikes, me on the back, praying to whatever gods for good tire pressure, ripping down the highway like maniacs chanting "Ayo" whenever a speed bump caught us off guard. Nook drove like she was competing in MotoGP, leaning into corners that would have terrified seasoned bikers. I spent most of the ride with my eyes closed, arms wrapped around her waist, feeling the wind and wondering if my travel insurance covered death by Thai girlfriends driving. We stopped in Korat, Nakhon Ratchasima, for grilled fish and coconut ice cream. She claims it's called tikal, but I suspect that was her nickname for me after my motorbike impersonation. The market there was incredible, full of foods I'd never seen and couldn't pronounce. Nook kept buying random snacks and making me try them. Fermented fish sauce that nearly knocked me over, sweet sticky rice wrapped in banana leaves, and something that tasted like chicken but definitely wasn't chicken. The road to Phu Kradueng got more remote with each kilometer. We passed through villages where kids ran out to wave at the farang on the motorbike, water buffalo cooling themselves in roadside ponds, and temples so beautiful they took your breath away. Nook stopped every few kilometers to take photos, always insisting I pose with various animals or in front of scenic backgrounds. For your family in sheep country, she'd laugh. Night fell just as we reached the mountain trailhead. Nook was beaming, rubbing her hands like a kid on Christmas Eve. The parking area was filled with hardcore Thai hikers setting up camping gear that looked more advanced than anything I'd seen. A storm was brewing, and I begged, maybe we sleep first? But she just said, nope, hike now, see sunrise top. I realized I was outvoted, and maybe slightly overpowered. So we started climbing the steep jungle path at midnight, flashlights in hand. The trail was mental. Steep switchbacks through dense jungle, roots that grabbed your feet, and sounds in the darkness that definitely weren't made by anything friendly. Nook bounded up the path like a mountain goat while I stumbled behind, already regretting every life choice that had led me to this moment. Let me warn any of your viewers, hiking up a Thai mountain in flip-flops at night, carrying a jacket, that's peak what could possibly go wrong territory. About halfway up, we met other hikers coming down with headlamps, all speaking rapid Thai to Nook. She kept nodding and looking concerned, but when I asked what they were saying, she just smiled and said, "They say beautiful sunrise tomorrow." Later I found out they'd been warning us about the storm, but Nook was too proud, or too in love with the adventure to turn back. The jungle at night was like being inside a living creature. Every rustle could have been a snake. Every shadow might have been hiding something with teeth. But Nook kept chattering away, pointing out plants and birds I couldn't see, telling stories about her childhood visits to this mountain. Her fearlessness was both inspiring and terrifying. And oh boy, tragedy loves irony. About 2/3 up, thunder started banging overhead like a bad drum solo. Rain slashed at us, drenching us to the bone in seconds. The trail turned into a river. Our flashlights barely cut through the downpour, and I could feel panic starting to creep up my spine. I found the nearest cave entrance, and we dove in. Inside it was pitch black and dripping wet. A gecko stared at me like I owed him rent. The cave was deeper than it looked, with passages disappearing into darkness. I draped Nook in my poncho and tried to crack a joke about our Thailand episode now streaming live, but no one was laughing but me. She was shivering, her usual confidence replaced by something I'd never seen before. Fear. We huddled together, listening to the storm rage outside. Lightning lit up the cave entrance every few seconds, and the thunder was so loud it shook rocks loose from the ceiling. That's when I should have known we were in serious trouble. Nook tried to call her family, but there was no signal. My phone was completely dead, soaked despite being in a waterproof case that clearly wasn't as advertised. Then it happened. A deafening crack and a half. The cave ceiling collapsed behind us, blocking the entrance with boulders the size of sheep. We were stuck on the ground in that storm, cold and soaked. I felt panic nibbling at my bones like a rat. The air suddenly felt thinner, and I realized we might not have much oxygen. I yelled something witty like, "Guess we found a new shortcut." But she was trembling, not from cold, but from genuine terror. I put my arm around her, sharing my precious dry shirt, and whispered, "Don't worry, I'm right here." But honestly, mate, I was scared shitless. We were trapped in a cave on a mountain in the middle of nowhere, in a storm that sounded like the world was ending. My phone was dead. Hers had no signal. And nobody knew where we were except her family back in Khon Kaen. We spent what felt like hours trying to move rocks, looking for other exits, shouting for help that wouldn't come. Nook found a small opening that might have led somewhere, but it was too narrow for me to fit through. She insisted on trying it alone while I waited. And that 20 minutes she was gone were the longest of my life. When she came back, covered in mud and scratches, she was crying. "No way out," she said, and for the first time since I'd known her, she looked truly defeated. We held each other in that dark cave, listening to rocks still shifting around us, wondering if this was how it would end. A few frantic minutes later, the rain let up just enough for us to hear voices outside. Other hikers who'd taken shelter nearby and heard our shouting. They managed to move enough rocks for us to squeeze out, but the effort triggered another small collapse. A tree branch, loosened by lightning and weakened by the shifting rocks, came down just as we were escaping. Nook saw it first and pushed me clear, but she wasn't fast enough to save herself. The branch caught her across the back and head, and she went down hard. I scrambled back to her, screaming her name, but she was already unconscious. Blood was mixing with rainwater on her face, and her breathing was shallow and wrong. The other hikers helped me carry her down the mountain in the darkness, slipping and sliding on the muddy trail. It took hours, and every minute felt like a lifetime. One of them had a motorbike at the bottom and rode ahead to get help while the rest of us kept moving. She scratched her head and said, "You okay, crazy Kiwi?" Just once, around dawn, but then slid back into unconsciousness. We made it to a small hospital in town. That's a long story involving a kindly elephant bathtub truck and a very confused doctor who'd never treated a farang before. But it was too late. The doctors did everything they could, but the head injury was too severe. She smiled one last time when she saw me and said, "Takun, thank you." before she closed her eyes for the final time. Which brings me to now, lying in a Bangkok hospital bed with a broken foot and a heavy heart. The official report says it was an accident. Nobody's fault. Just bad weather and bad luck. Her family was incredibly kind about it. Never blamed me. Even invited me to the funeral. But I blame myself every day. If I'd been stronger, faster, braver, maybe she'd still be here. I swear I can still smell her mango shampoo and hear her giggling as I limp out of emergency. I've got her paintings now. Her family insisted I take them back to New Zealand. Every time I look at them, I see Thailand through her eyes. Bright, beautiful, full of adventure and possibility. I'll keep her memory alive. She taught this dumb Kiwi that life's too short for maybes and to always ride every crazy wave with a grin. The worst part is knowing that she died saving me, and I'll never be worthy of that sacrifice. But I'll spend the rest of my life trying to be the person she thought I could be. She saw adventure in everything, beauty in chaos, and joy in the simplest moments. That's how I want to remember her, not the tragedy in the end, but the explosion of life she was. So yeah, cheers mate. Drop one for Nook and this wild adventure. It was a blast until the end. Thanks for all the interesting stories you keep putting on your channel, and especially the ones that are similar to mine, because they help me get by. Stay safe out there. You never know when Songkran will turn into a life and death situation. Take care. Derek, the Kiwi in Khon Kaen.